Welcome to Monday, October 25th, 2021. It's the last Monday of October. Windy and unsettled is the good way to describe the next 24 to 48 hours across the Intermountain West. We're going to see some pretty strong winds, especially in the mountain gap areas of the Central Rockies ahead of the California storm system later today, tonight, and Tuesday. We're going to have some mountain snow and some rain and snow showers on the plains as we get on into late tonight and Tuesday. Most of the showers over by early Wednesday. But we're going to see the storm system come in and really kind of get shredded apart. By the time it gets here, there won't be anything really heavy for the plains. Cool and breezy weather will continue Wednesday through Friday. In fact, the weather Wednesday through Friday is actually looking pretty good. But we have a storm system to deal with over Halloween. We've kind of been vacillating back and forth between something that looks strong, something that looked weak. Now we're kind of in the middle, as it does look like a frontal system with some pretty cold Canadian air is going to visit the high plains and Rockies sometime this weekend. But there are big differences in timing and intensity with the front. So we're going to have to take the next few days to settle on what we want to do with the Halloween weekend forecast. But it definitely looks like we'll have something to deal with. It's just a matter of how strong it will be and when it will want to arrive. Today's satellite imagery showing beautifully the swirl of clouds with the center of low pressure there off the coast of Washington. But the main event is right here where the heaviest precipitation is falling. We talked last week about the very strong jet stream winds causing a lot of lift into the west coast, and that continues. This band of enhanced cloudiness is what's going to rapidly head off to the east later today and tonight. But all of the mountain ranges between the west coast and the Central Rockies will degrade the front as it heads east. So areas along and west of the divide will be in the best shape to pick up some measurable rain and mountain snow out of the system. Speaking of measurable amounts of precipitation, now this is only through about 10 o'clock Pacific time last night. You look in parts of Northern California, these are rainfall totals that don't even include what fell overnight or this morning. So incredible rains heading into California, but about ready to wind down here later today and tonight. And here's why. Here is the strong frontal system coming on in, and you're going to see it move very, very quickly. But as it does so, it will cause wind. What I'm showing you is a map of potential wind gusts between now and Wednesday with this front. You can see as the front marches across the Great Basin and into the Intermountain West, we're going to have quite a bit of wind. And if you notice, you can kind of draw a line along the mountain divide here from Canada all the way to New Mexico. There is going to be some pretty high winds, and this is where you get what we call the gap winds, where the air is squeezed through the mountainous terrain, and you can get some really strong winds along I-25 and Interstate 80, as well as I-15 across Utah and I-70 across Colorado. So we're getting a little bit of everything with this front as we continue to go deeper into the fall season. Now by Thursday, the frontal system that's here now evolves into a more organized low into the lower Midwest, and this will be causing some problems for the east. They're going to be very, very wet in parts of the east and eastern areas of the Corn Belt, but you can see high pressure building, kind of a mountain of higher pressure building in by the second half of the week. So there's not going to be much going on as we get into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But you see all the blue up here? There's a fair amount of cold air, and you see this little dip. It doesn't look like much, does it? But this little dip right here is an upper level low and strong jet stream winds that may end up dragging colder air through Western Canada and then eventually into our neck of the woods. Now this is the 500 millibar, or winds at 18,000 feet by Saturday night into Sunday morning. This is on what we call the GFS, the Global Forecast System model, or the US model. And what we have is a pretty good looking low and a pretty good shot of cold air. Remember, you want to follow the wind barbs to see the source region for the cold air. So the cold air is coming up from right up here in far northwest Canada and being dragged south. So while we will likely be mild Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and during Saturday, we have the potential for the cold air to spill south out of Canada and then along the Front Range. Precipitation-wise, you're going to see some really good moisture still with this system, but as we have shown you before, there is a gradient Once you get east of the divide, the amounts of precipitation really drop off. This heavier moisture is when the low sort of reforms in the lower Midwest. But you can see some blue and yellows here. So the Central Rockies going to be picking up some decent mountain snow out of this. And you can see that right here. This is going to be an additional 2 to 3 feet in the Sierras before that storm is done, on top of what has fallen already. But you can see the Rockies of Canada, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah, and into Colorado. A lot of this is going to be your higher elevation snow. Most of the heavier accumulations above timberline or above 11,000 feet or so. But again, building on that early snowpack base. Now, this is where we have timing differences for Halloween, and we'll spend more time on Halloween as we get a little bit closer. But I want to show you the differences in the modeling to sort of show you what we're looking at so we can get a better idea on where the timing and the placement of the cold front will be for this upcoming weekend. This is from the European model, which shows by sundown Halloween Sunday, the main cold front through central Wyoming, western South Dakota, through all of Montana. So it is going to be a chilly Halloween up there for sure. That's the European model. And if you look at the precipitation, by Monday morning, we've got a pretty good little band of, this is going to be mostly snow forming by Monday morning in this area. If we were to look at the Canadian model, it is a lot colder. So notice the cold on the Canadian, see the purple there? It shows the cold front by Halloween evening to Denver. So we have one model that has it to about Casper, another model to Denver. That's a lot of real estate. That's a lot of distance to where this front could be. The Canadian model has the heavier moisture Sunday into Sunday night over southeastern Wyoming, parts of northern Colorado, and western Nebraska. This is going to be all snow if that happens. Now let's look at the American model, the global forecast system. Look at this purple here. It actually, for the same time frame, has the cold front to Trinidad to basically Raton Pass. So it's either going to be, depending on which model you believe, Raton Pass, Denver, or Casper. So this is a really big difference in timing, and the timing will coincide when any snow will fall. So we've got to sort this timing out and the intensity out, but we are getting confident that we're going to have some type of frontal system and some change in the weather around that Halloween Sunday. Precipitation on the global forecast system, or the GFS, shows it pushing further south, and then you can see the snow on the GFS model. Pretty impressive for Sunday night into early Monday. So we'll keep an eye on it for you. By later in the week, this is by November 3rd, on next Wednesday, a week from this Wednesday, look at the cold getting into the Gulf Coast. Wow, this is a big push of cold air for early November, but I want to remind you of something that we talked about a week or two ago about stratospheric warming at the end of October, that as the stratosphere at the end of October got warmer, it expands and pushes the colder air off the higher latitudes to the lower latitudes, and that's exactly what's happening here right at the end of the month and into the first couple of days of November. Pretty good cold shot for a lot of the United States from the Rockies and Plains eastward, and we'll talk more about that as the week progresses. Have yourself a great Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.